When we think of the aftermath of Thanos snapping his fingers in Avengers Infinity War, we think of half of our favorite heroes turning to dust.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir, please.
And it was absolutely heartbreaking to witness.
Oh, God.
But what we rarely think about is the effect it had on the villainous characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Those bad guys who were left alive following their appearances in MCU movies and TV shows would also have potentially been victims of the decimation. So, for the purpose of having a little bit of fun, let's look at why we think these villains did or did not get decimated by Thanos, if indeed there was any reason behind who got dusted. Okay, let's go all the way back to 2008's The Incredible Hulk for this one. With Tim Roth's long-forgotten Emil Blonsky, who ended up being otherwise known as the Abomination after being injected with both the Super Soldier Serum and the Hulk's gamma-irradiated blood. If there was any logic to Thanos' snap at all, you would have to imagine Abomination would have turned to dust. He's a prime candidate, given the fact that he's a big, chunky specimen with an increased metabolism, and we bet he eats all the food. Moreover, he would have been incarcerated at the time of the decimation, and would have actually been so for around a decade, meaning he was offering nothing to society, and was in fact costing large amounts of money and using up vast amounts of resources for doing nothing more than existing. Now let's move on to Justin Hammer, a secondary villain from 2010's Iron Man 2. He was actually most recently seen in the 2014 Marvel one-shot movie All Hail the King, in which he was shown to be incarcerated, meaning he was offering nothing to society while wasting money and resources. When you add that onto the fact that he was a selfish individual whose motive for doing anything was to benefit himself and make himself richer, he's a prime candidate to be snapped out of existence. And we think that's exactly what will have happened to him. Hugo Weaving's Red Skull first appeared in 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger, when his obsession with the Tesseract, the Space Infinity Stone, led him to Norway, where he got his hands on it and used it to create high-tech weapons for Hydra. He got cocky at the end of the movie, however, and tried to handle the powerful item, which promptly banished him to the far ends of the universe. He re-emerged in 2018's Avengers Infinity War, more than 70 years later, when it was revealed he was on Vormir, cursed to oversee the fate of the Soul Stone. With that in mind, his intrinsic connection to the Infinity Stones was likely to have saved him from the decimation, even though he is an incredibly evil individual. Trevor Slattery was the bumbling British actor played by Sir Ben Kingsley in 2013's Iron Man 3. In the 2014 Marvel one-shot movie All Hail the King, he was revealed to be incarcerated, but it ended up with him being broken out of prison, and his current whereabouts are unknown. While he is a criminal and did drain resources in prison, he always seems to fall on his feet in idiotic circumstances. And we have to believe that through sheer dumb luck, he avoided being decimated. Batroc the Leaper was only a minor villain, a mercenary in 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier, but we learned enough about him to ascertain whether he would have been decimated or not if there was any logic behind who turned to dust when Thanos snapped his fingers. Played by former UFC fighter George St. Pierre, Batroc was really nothing more than a lackey who killed for money. There's no real argument to justify why he'd be unaffected by the snap, and for that simple reason, we believe he turned to dust along with 50% of all life in the universe. Daniel Bruhl played Helmut Zemo, a former member of the Sokovian Armed Forces, in 2016's Captain America: Civil War. Zemo's wife and children were killed during the Battle of Sokovia in Avengers: Age of Ultron, and blaming the Avengers for their deaths, he set a plan in motion that would result in the heroic super team killing each other. Ultimately, his plan didn't work, but he was incarcerated at General Ross's pleasure. With that in mind, we believe he turned to dust when Thanos snapped his fingers, as a man who doesn't want to live has nothing to live for, and who already tried to kill himself once just seems like an ideal candidate to be a victim of such an event. In spite of the fact that he's arguably the most powerful villain on this list, the primordial interdimensional being known as Dormammu was proven to be vulnerable to the power of the Infinity Stones when Doctor Strange used the Eye of Agamotto, the Time Stone, to trap him in a loop of endless time.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
That being said, he's also the one character on this list that we know for sure avoided being decimated by Thanos, by virtue of the fact that he exists in a different dimension. And while a being of his power might have sensed the decimation taking place, he would undoubtedly have been completely unaffected by it. Karl Mordo spent most of 2016's Doctor Strange movie as an ally, and something of a mentor to Benedict Cumberbatch's titular sorcerer, but he certainly ended it as more of a nefarious individual. His last words in the movie may have been "too many sorcerers," but we still believe he survived the decimation. You see, Mordo's mystical weapon of choice was the Staff of the Living Tribunal, and in the comics, the Living Tribunal is the second most powerful being in existence. If the staff's powers are tied to the Living Tribunal himself, Mordo essentially has a deal with an integral force of the universe, a being so powerful that he could single-handedly overpower the completed Infinity Gauntlet. Assuming the Living Tribunal is in any way allied with Mordo, the powerful cosmic being could just nope the effects of the decimation on Mordo's behalf. Ayesha is the Golden High Priestess of the Sovereign, a species of golden humanoids, all of whom were genetically engineered and germinated in birthing pods to be
impeccable, both physically and mentally.
With that in mind, they may be the one species in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to whom the decimation was particularly kind. For the benefit of the universe, saving this impeccable race might have been part of Thanos' agenda. They were just too perfect to decimate. And for that reason, we believe Ayesha, the most important member of this super species, would definitely have been spared. Played by the fantastic Michael Keaton in 2017's Spider-Man: Homecoming, Adrian Toomes is a former salvage worker turned black market technology dealer, and rather appropriately in that case, ultimately became the villain known as the Vulture. He's currently incarcerated, and as such is another criminal using resources while offering nothing to society. He is therefore a prime candidate to have turned to dust when Thanos snapped his fingers. Moreover, he's profited from selling tech belonging to Thanos' Chitauri army, and Thanos might take umbrage to that. Herrmann Schultz is a member of Adrian Toomes' crew, who, having originally worked for Toomes' salvage company, went into black market dealings with him. Played by Bokeem Woodbine, he became the news shocker after Toomes incinerated Jackson Bryce. Currently incarcerated and offering nothing to society, we believe Schultz will have been dusted, just like his boss was. Of course, having worked with Toomes, he's another individual who will have profited from selling technology that actually belonged to Thanos, and that may just have contributed to him turning to dust in the decimation. The final member of Adrian Toomes' crew that we're including here is Phineas Mason, who is otherwise known as the Tinkerer. Played by Michael Chernus, he was one of the only people capable of reactivating Chitauri technology without outside help. He wasn't captured like his colleagues, and instead went into hiding after the events of Spider-Man: Homecoming. But we believe he dusted in the decimation regardless, as Thanos won't have taken kindly to him modifying and selling technology that belonged to him. Surtur is the powerful fire demon who we met in 2017's Thor Ragnarok. When we first met him, he was only around 3 times taller than the average man, but by the time we left him, when he was destroying Asgard, fulfilling the prophecy of Ragnarok, he was the size of a mountain. The source of Surtur's power might be key to his survival. He was empowered by the eternal flame, with the keyword there being eternal. At his full power, Surtur's very nature suggests he will live on forever, and that makes him a very likely candidate to have survived Thanos' snap. Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster appeared in 2017's Thor Ragnarok as the powerful ruler of Sakaar who presided over the Contest of Champions. While he was extremely extravagant and undoubtedly used up a whole lot of resources himself, there are a variety of reasons why we believe he survived the snap. First, Thanos might deem someone like him to be doing the universe a favor.
You're officially pardoned from life.
The Contest of Champions battles see 2 people enter and 1 person leave. It's essentially a mini way of having the local population in its own right. Then there's the fact that he was part of a race of beings of whom there aren't many left. Not least thanks to the fact that Thanos had seemingly killed the Collector not long before he executed the decimation. But there's also the fact that Sakaar exists slightly out of sync with the rest of reality, as specified in Thor Ragnarok when it was stated that time operates differently there. It may just have rendered him safe from the snap. Ghost may no longer be a villain, but she certainly was for a while, so we're happy to include her here. She was the antagonist in 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp, and her powers were linked directly to the quantum realm, which we believe may well have saved her from the decimation. Given that it's widely believed Scott Lang survived Thanos' snap due to being tucked away safely in the quantum realm at the time, Star's links to the dimension probably tied her to it to the extent that she was rendered safe from it too. Sonny Burch was one of the secondary villains in 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Played by Walton Goggins, Burch is a black market technology dealer with ties in the FBI. He's a nasty little man who really offers nothing positive to the world, and as such, we believe he will have turned to dust when Thanos snapped his fingers and erased half of all life in the universe. And the fact that he's currently incarcerated won't help his cause either. He was already a negative influence on society, but now he's leeching resources on top of that. He's a definite decimation victim, if we ever saw one. Yon-Rogg is a Kree commander and the leader of Star Force, who we were introduced to in this year's Captain Marvel movie. Jude Law's character initially seemed like quite a good guy and a noble mentor to Brie Larson's Carol Danvers, but it turned out he had something of a nefarious side to him. He spent his life hunting Skrulls, tracking them down to the planets the refugee race had traveled to in search of a new home, with the Kree having destroyed their original home planet of Skrullos when the shape-shifting race refused to submit to the rule of the Kree Empire. Bearing that in mind, we believe he's the kind of guy Thanos would like, and we imagine he survived the decimation, so he could continue carrying out the kind of population control the Mad Titan would approve of. Now, given that she was taken back to the dungeons of Asgard by Sif following her appearance in ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's easy to assume Lorelei was killed when Surtur destroyed it in Thor Ragnarok. However, the status of Elena Satine's character was believed to be alive prior to the decimation, and we believe she's still alive now. You see, the status of Asgard's prisoners may well have changed with Loki in charge. He was probably far more lenient with the evildoer inmates than Odin was, so Lorelei could have been released. Moreover, in the midst of Ragnarok, when Thor and his allies evacuated the God of Thunder's home realm, she could very easily have disguised herself and escaped on the refugee vessel. Calvin Zabo was originally a villain on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who was married to the Inhuman Jia-Ying, and was also the father of Daisy Johnson, who was otherwise known as both Sky and Quake. While trying to find Daisy and avenge the supposed death of Jia-Ying, he used his skills as a doctor to develop a formula that gave him superhuman strength.
You were looking for a monster.
But it gave him an erratic personality, and he ended up becoming a criminal. After proving to Phil Coulson that he still had good in him, he had his memories wiped and began a new life as a veterinarian. With that in mind, we believe Kyle MacLachlan's character was spared in the decimation, as Thanos might have subconsciously saved those who would be able to help in the chaos that ensued post-snap, which would have undoubtedly included a whole lot of animals in need of care. Yep, that's right, we think even Thanos has a soft spot for puppies. Wilson Fisk, who is otherwise known as the Kingpin, is a powerful businessman and crime lord who operates out of New York City. Played by the incredible Vincent D'Onofrio in the Daredevil Netflix series, we can't help but think the Kingpin would be Thanos' kind of guy. He's actually kind of a Thanos light, and for that reason we believe he would have survived the decimation. Fisk rules with an iron fist, just like Thanos does, and he's utterly ruthless. But he also wants what's best for New York City, in particular the Hell's Kitchen area, and if he has to initially burn it down to improve it, so be it. That's kind of what Thanos did when he erased half of all life in the universe, with the intention of benefiting it in the long run. Benjamin Poindexter is a mentally unstable former FBI agent with an uncanny talent for accuracy. His world came crashing down when he came to the attention of the aforementioned Wilson Fisk, who manipulated him into becoming his personal assassin and impersonating Daredevil in order to turn the public against the blind vigilante. He's currently in custody and has most recently undergone experimental surgery to fix his broken spine. We believe he was dusted by the decimation, thanks largely to the fact that it seems as though he has very little to live for. Bushmaster, whose real name is John McIver, is an enhanced individual who appeared in the Luke Cage Netflix series. He had strength and durability on a par with Mike Coulter's Luke Cage. Although he had a rivalry with Cage, he's an honorable man who showed his opponent plenty of respect. He's also very much a family man, and we feel as though Thanos would have an affinity with him for those two reasons. And for those reasons, we believe Bushmaster will have survived the snap. Diamondback is actually Luke Cage's half-brother, and he appeared in Cage's Netflix series played by Eric LaRae Harvey. His real name is Willis Stryker, and he wears a power suit developed by Hammer Industries, which enhances his strength and durability by manipulating kinetic energy. In spite of the fact that he is a ruthless character like Thanos, he's also a bitter and jealous individual due to his father's treatment of him, which are traits the Mad Titan certainly wouldn't like. He ended up in jail, where his bitterness and jealousy probably consumed him even more than it did on the outside world. And given that he was hardly benefiting the universe in any way, shape, or form on the inside, we think he turned to dust when the prune-chinned villain snapped his fingers. There are some characters who are just so awful that you just have to hope in your mind's eye that the absolute worst fate imaginable befalls them, and Maximus Boltagon is definitely one of them. Maximus was the main villain in ABC's ill-fated Inhumans show, and he was really just terrible. While he was a quiet and calm individual, he was also an extremist whose personality traits include jealousy and sadism, and we really want to believe that Thanos did the right thing and turned that guy to dust. Heck, he was such an annoying, unlikable, and downright terrible individual that we even hope he started to cry when he saw what was happening to him. Another villain from that terrible Inhumans show, Flora, was a member of the Attilan Royal Guard who was played by Krista Alvarez. It's important to note Flora's Inhuman superpower for this particular entry, because we believe it could be key to her fate in the Decimation. Flora's power is plant life manipulation. By touching the ground and connecting with the roots of the surrounding plant life, she can effectively control the vegetation to benefit her however she sees fit. And it's her connection to the earth that may just have saved her when Thanos snapped his fingers, because she could be so deeply connected to the very environment around her that the Decimation simply overlooked her, seeing her as flora rather than fauna as it picked its victims. Do you agree with our assessment? Which of these villains do you think were decimated by Thanos? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great videos just like this one. Bye for now.